Welcome to episode 17 of the Brew Crew Scoop. It's Scoop. I'm here with Kian and Cole. First of all, we got some big news in MLB. Shohei Ohtani is facing a little bit of controversy right now, so we're actually going to start out with that, even though most of the time in the offseason, we're Brewers only. We hit MLB during the season a good amount, but we're going to start with that, and then we're going to get into Brewers roster is pretty much set right now. So we're going to talk about that, and then this is our full 2024 MLB predictions episode. So we're going to hit on division winners, wild cards, do a little bit of a deep dive into the NL Central, and then we'll talk MVPs, Cy Youngs, Rookie of the Years, Brewers All-Stars, and then predict how we think the playoffs are going to end. So before we get into those predictions, I just wanted to hit on the Shohei Ohtani news quick. So as you probably have already seen, Shohei Ohtani's interpreter is being accused of either stealing money from Shohei or Shohei is being accused of using his interpreter as a cover-up. There was somewhere around $4.5 million being wired to an illegal bookmaker in California. So his interpreter, Ipe Mazahara, I think Mazahara is how it's pronounced. He is claiming that it's all his fault. He didn't tell Shohei that he stole money from him essentially by wiring money to the bookmaker to pay off his quote-unquote debts that he had. Shohei just came out about an hour ago talking about that he had nothing to do with it. Essentially, his friend had committed some form of giant theft against him. So we'll see what comes of it. There are a lot of holes in the story, but MLB baseball's poster boy is right now looking like he could be in some sort of trouble. There's nothing yet that's too damning, but interesting to say the least, especially right after they start out the season in Korea. So not what you want to see from MLB. It seems like we can't avoid a scandal for more than a week.
Yeah, but any press is good press, right? I don't know. It gets more people probably talking about baseball. There's probably some people out there who don't even know who Shohei is, and now he's front and center, not for the best reasons, but at least it seems like he might not be as guilty of anything, I guess, at least that has like a negative opinion by fans, if it really is just helping cover money, which was the original story, as we know, and then the stories kind of changed a couple times from Ipe, but it sounded like originally what Ipe was saying was that Shohei was just helping him out and covering his debt, and then the story changed very quickly to, well, depends on who you ask, but basically he stole the money to cover bets. And allegedly, the one key piece too is if the money was stole or given from Shohei to cover the bets. I think on the baseball side of things, it would get a lot worse if baseball was wagered on, and the rumors are baseball wasn't wagered on. But at the same time, if you have a gambling addiction that gets you over $4 million in debt, at some point you'd probably start gambling on the thing you're following every day because you're a baseball interpreter. But yeah, according to the current rhetoric, which again has changed a bunch, I guess Shohei had money stolen from him and he didn't bet at all. But if you want to be cynical, it could be a cover up for him. But I don't really think anything's going to come out of it. It's really hard to say, but I don't think the MLB obviously wants Shohei in trouble. So if they can prove that he's innocent enough, I don't think he'll get in trouble, but we'll see.
Interesting part is the commissioner is it's up to the commissioner's discretion on gambling suspension. So that would be interesting to see what happens with literally the poster boy of baseball. Ian, before you go, I just want to say that if you're about to say what I think you are going to say, I want to preface it with you have a flaming hot take on this. I said, damn, this would suck because I love Shohei Ohtani. And you said, go ahead.
Well, I mean, okay, you didn't say, damn, this would suck. You didn't say the full quote.
What did I say? I said this would suck ass. I don't know what it would suck. But you said you're not Ben Verlander. You don't need a Shohei Ohtani in baseball that bad. And as a fellow NL fan, non-Dodger fan, I understand. But anyways, go ahead and explain yourself because I think you're wrong.
Well, the original text was, "I'm gonna unalive myself if
Okay.
Shohei gets suspended," and I said, "That's a little too far. I don't need Shohei in baseball that bad." Um,
Fair enough.
again, I'm a lover of the game, not a lover of a certain player. So if
All
he
right,
were
Ryan
to
Braun
leave,
forever.
hey man, if he would have played for the Dodgers, still would have been a Brewers fan, not just a Ryan Braun fan. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's great. I still love the game. You can love the players, but I mean, to say that the game would be ruined for me because one player was gone. I mean, Ryan Braun got suspended. My world was ending, and I still watched whenever he wasn't suspended. I mean, if that's your argument, I guess, but I just think the whole situation is hilarious. I mean, what better what better time for baseball regular season to start at 5 a.m. and then you wake up and you're like, oh, okay, Dodgers won. Oh, and Shohei is probably like in this huge scandal of his interpreter, aka best friend, stealing from him as well. I mean, I don't know how many people who are listening or any of us that actually watched the two games that were in Korea or whatever, but I think everybody knows about the Shohei situation. So, what was better for the game? Just the scandal, and for once, me and Cole agree. Any publicity is good publicity. I think it's great for the game of baseball. I think it's amazing. Obviously, nothing bad is going to happen to Shohei. They wouldn't let that happen. It's all for money. You can't lose your best piece of money because of some little gambling scandal. I mean, if it was, let's say, Gregory Polanco 5 years ago when he played, I mean, I'm sure he'd be suspended for life and nobody would ever think about it again. But it's Shohei, so it'll be swept under the rug, and we won't even remember it in June. So I don't think it'll matter, but
It
it's
is
cool for
funny.
right now.
It is a little. Some of the reports are funny that Ipe apparently never actually went to the school that he claimed he went to. He never actually worked for these MLB teams that everyone's been saying that he worked for, which I don't know how that can possibly get mixed up, but it is kind of funny. But yeah, we don't really actually know that much yet, but it's
Yeah.
obviously huge, possibly huge news.
We'll
So
have to just see we'll have to see how hard the MLB investigates, but what it comes up with. Because it was kind of interesting. Like, I think just today, did you see the Jonte Porter in the NBA, the guy on the Raptors?
I
Who
just
was
saw,
betting he was
yeah,
betting allegedly on like his own lines. So he was
yeah.
betting like his own under, and then he said he was sick and then won his bet. So that's like a key piece, is obviously not betting on your own sport or obviously yourself. And whether it's Shohei or even Ipe, he's so tied in. I don't think employees are allowed to bet on baseball anyways. So yeah, we'll just have to see what comes of it. But as much as I agree with Kian that baseball is still going to be here without Shohei, he is the poster child of the sport. So you kind of want him to be playing, which hopefully he will be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really all I have to say on that right now, just because, like I said, we don't really know that much, but it's obviously just huge baseball news. But getting into the Brewers, right after we filmed our last episode last week, we found out that 20-year-old Jackson Churio is making the opening day roster. So that's super cool. I think we had speculated that we thought that might be the case, but it's confirmed. And so I'm gonna rearrange things just a little bit. So just to go straight into it, we know Churio's making the roster, and it sounded like um the roster was basically set, and then all of a sudden, like at the same time we heard that, uh, Garrett Mitchell found out that he needed an X-ray in his hand because he jammed himself. And then now, just before we start recording this episode here on Monday night, just 3 days away from opening day, we find out that Garrett Mitchell has a fracture in his left hand, so he's gonna start the season on IL. Now, real quick, the pitching staff is set. We have a rotation likely in this order: Peralta, Hall, Ray, Ross, Junis, and then a bullpen of Wilson, Milner, McGill, Uribe, Payams, Figueroa, which was obvious. And then the two that were kind of question mark spots are Thiago Vieira and Brian Hudson. And then the hitters would be Contreras and Sanchez. Catchers, Hoskins, Terang, Bowers, Ortiz, Adames, Monasterio in the infield. Churio, Yelich, Frelick, and Perkins in the outfield. So Monasterio and Perkins found out today they're going to make it. So then it was down to just Mitchell. But then the first thought was, is it going to be Babe Ruth of spring training, Eric Haase, who's now raised his OPS to like 1350 after today. He's on an absolute tear in spring training, but he has an uphill climb being the third catcher. But now it sounds like with this Mitchell news, they might think about just recalling Joey Weimer, who was just optioned the other day. Obviously, he can be recalled because it would be for an IL situation. So as we sit here today, we don't know if it's going to be Eric Haase, the third catcher / left fielder. Sanchez had a shorter spring training. He has not fared too well behind the plate defensively. We'd imagine he probably DHs a lot, so wouldn't be the weirdest thing in the world to have a third catcher, but it also could be Weimer again. I'm kind of in the camp of what Kean said earlier, where Weimer just might need to get his AAA at bats first and prove himself. And I don't hate that idea right now. If you can keep Haas right now, just to see if this is a fluke or not, this spring training, how hot he is, I kind of think that you keep him right now, just even if it's for a couple weeks, and then recall Weimer, because I think Kean, you said, what is Joey Weimer have 30, 40 career games at AAA, is it?
Yeah, it was in the 40s. Like, it
Mhm.
was not very much. He had like 10 or something at the end of 2022, and then he started, obviously, it was like 7 or so. I don't know. It was split up weird, but obviously he got sent down at the end of last year. Otherwise, he got called up the second day of the year, and if he
Mhm.
would have performed well, he would have literally had like 7 games at the AAA level. But I think he just needs to marinate a little bit. You just need at bats with guys. You can't. Very few guys can skip that AAA level. I mean, we're going to see if Jackson Churio can do that. I mean, cross your fingers, but very few guys can. It's nice to see, that quadruple A level pitching on a day to day basis, and then make the jump. And I think that's what's best for him. I am now in the camp with you. I think that that's the best way to go. Carry the 3 catchers um, with Mitchell's injury, and then you just kind of you let Haas be the second catcher, and then just let Sanchez DH and get his reps catching behind closed doors, and then hopefully, when Haas expectedly does terrible and can't stay above the Mendoza line, you ship him out and you just put Gary back in that number 2 catcher role.
Yeah, I think it seemed like they were pushing for that extra outfielder though, which is the only thing that makes you think that Weimer might be back. But especially early in the year, guys aren't going to be fatigued, I think, coming off the start of the season. And then pair that with one of our bench guys, obviously being Monasterio, who was our everyday towards the end of the year last year at third. So if we really value the bodies in the outfield, we could just have Sal man the outfield for a while, even though it seems like he's kind of made that push for third. But you could just play Monasterio or Ortiz or whoever in that third base rotation, and then let Sal focus on the outfield for at least the start of the season until we figure out the Mitchell timeline. Because I think it's either 3 weeks or so, or it could be more. From what I saw, it looked like 1 to 2 months is like a guess, but there's still more recommendations to be made, I think, by some doctors. So yeah, we'll see.
Knowing how
But
fragile Garrett Mitchell is, he'll probably be out the whole fucking season. Jesus Christ. Should have fucking bubble wrapped him after his 3 at-bats. Dude gets hurt every other day.
That's Kean, everyone. Just so you
Has
guys.
he ever heard of Pilates or something? Breaking your hand, getting jammed. Bro, they make those thumb things
Yeah.
to stop the vibrations. You ever
Yeah.
heard of it, Garrett? Maybe you should try. Take
Yeah.
all precautions.
We'll tell him, get those anti-vibration thumb things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
from Spider's batting gloves.
Yes. Don't forget to use the Scoop 15 at checkout for 15% off your next order.
For the thumb vibration things. Avoid broken hands at all costs.
We're still working on that deal. We'll keep you filthy. But I saw a very dejected Pat Murphy a couple hours ago talking about how disappointed he is that Mitchell's hurt, and said that they said, does this make room for Haas? He said that's a possibility. And then they asked a couple other questions, and he basically was just saying, we're thinking about all possibilities right now. And one of them is just have Frelick not play infield. So we could just go back on everything that had happened that way. And then, yeah, Haas could make the roster. I don't know. I feel like you just throw him on there because what do you have to lose with him? Well, you already optioned Weimer, but I don't know. We'll see. Along with Weimer getting optioned, Aaron Ashby was optioned as well. Vinny Capra, Oliver Dunn, Owen Miller, and Jansen Junkware. I don't think any of those four were really surprises, but Ashby's still building up. So another big group of guys that got sent to Nashville, but I think we hopefully see a good amount of a healthy Aaron Ashby this year.
Another softy. Somebody, maybe he should start throwing with his right arm, because I think the left one's cooked. But seriously, if he could be, I tweeted it out a couple months ago or a month and a half ago when I said if he could just be like league average, like that would be huge for us. Just 160 innings, league average ever across the board. Like that's just huge. Do I think we're going to get that? Absolutely not. I think we'll maybe get 36 innings, maybe a 7 ERA, and then 60-day IL stint, and then a nice little DFA next December.
Yeah, Kian, when we start getting some players on here, you are uninvited from the interview. Record,
come on.
it's a little frustrating to see the guys who've been hurt to get hurt again, but I don't know. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I can't assume that it's just them not taking care of their bodies. So, yeah, I think that's, well, I guess we could talk about real quick. Miley is going to start the year on IL as well as Taylor Clark. I don't know that he was going to make the roster or not, but Miley will start on IL. He's going to miss, they think, a couple starts. He's throwing right now, but I think that they just came to the consensus that him being fully healthy is better than him trying to rush back. And then the pitching staff doesn't look great right now, as we all know. But the last week or 2 weeks, the Brewers team has been mashing at spring training. Adames had a 3-homer game yesterday. Haase's 8 home runs. Luis Lara, the 19-year-old, 18 or 19? I think he's 19. 19-year-old hit a homer in Major League Spring Training yesterday. Rhys Hoskins has had a couple. So all signs are pointing to a pretty good offensive team. So that's really refreshing to see right now.
I think, and like you said, the rotation doesn't look, it's definitely not what we're used to, right? But Peralta, we all know, has the stuff. And I think Hall is going to be the big piece. The one question is how many innings he's really going to throw, because he hasn't been stretched out as recently. But there's a reason we were high on him, and a lot of prospect lists and stuff have been for a long time. And then a mix of Ross. I think we see Gasser sooner than not. Probably get his feet wet in AAA this year and just come up here after 17, 18, or 19 days is my guess. Not because they're suppressing his clock, but just because he needs a couple extra starts, right? But I think you see him, you probably see Carlos F. Rodriguez. We see some of the youth, and those guys will be a little more stretched out. And I think we'll just, I guess, wisely bounce arms around to fill in the innings, because we don't have innings eaters. So it'll be kind of a different approach, but we're going to see how we can piece together our pitching innings. But yeah, the lineup looks awesome. Like you said, Scoop, even without Garrett Mitchell, we still have a lot of positive bats. Even like Joey Ortiz, I know, has a couple home runs now in spring training. He looks good. And obviously Willie's on fire, and Reese had a homer. So yeah, the lineup looks awesome.
We saw that Yelich is apparently going back to the 3-hole, and Frelick and Mitchell will be the leadoff hitters, and then right after that, we found out Mitchell's out. So it sounds like the lineup's likely going to be maybe gets changed based on what handed pitcher they're seeing, but on a day-to-day basis, it'll likely be Frelick, Contreras, Yelich, Hoskins, Adames at the top, and then some mix of Churio, Ortiz in the 6-7 spot. So that's exciting. It's definitely a deep, solid roster. You got a lot of guys who can bang, so I'm looking forward to it.
Bang.
I thought it was kind of interesting that they are talking about Yelly in the 3-hole again, just because at least last year Contreras slugged a little bit more actually, and obviously Yelly's got better wheels, so I don't think it'll be a huge issue. But you don't
Well,
really want Yelly stuck behind Contreras on the paths or anything, and missing out on steals. But it'll work itself out.
well, I think that Yelich 2 and Contreras 3 makes way more sense as well. And I put that on Twitter, and everyone was telling me how stupid I am because, well, we're not going to bat 2 lefties in a row and then 3 righties in a row. And I guess I agree.
Yeah.
I agree a little bit, but it's just the profile of those guys makes way more sense. But I mean, it is
Yeah,
what
you
it is.
probably split it up like that, I guess. Makes
Yeah.
sense, but
So, yeah.
I personally prefer Christian Yelich in the one hole, but that's just me. I think he's your. If he was on any other team and wasn't being paid to be a 3-hole hitter, I think that's just where he would slot in. He's got the contact bat. He doesn't hit for a shit ton of power, and he takes a crap ton of walks. I mean, the only reason he's not batting one is because of Sal Frelick, and I see a ton of people blaming Craig Counsell for batting Yelich in the one last year. And I don't understand that. I think
Yeah.
that's his best spot. A lot of Brew fans are, singing Pat Murphy's praises because he's going to bat Yelich 3, and I could see a lot of people being upset when he has 2 home runs in April. I
I
mean,
think
I just
actually Craig kind of unlocked something when he moved. If I remember correctly, I think Yelich was really slumping and they moved him to lead off, and then that unlocked a little bit of good baseball out of him. So I think that if you took away what side of the plate they hit from, I think the lineup that makes most sense is probably Frelick 1 because he literally is a bat to ball guy. I know he has the ability to hit for power, and then but Yelich is more of the quote unquote power hitter of the two. So, and they're both fast. But yeah, either way, I definitely agree that Yelich is more of a 1-2 hitter than a 3 hitter. But I also don't think that Sal Frelick's a 3 hitter. So I don't know. I'm sure we'll see a lot of movement. We got a lot of, I don't know if you'd even call them platoons, but just a lot of movement that's going to be happening in this lineup and this roster. So
and
we're not the Dodgers, but
yeah, so with the roster, well, we thought pretty much set. And then regular guest Ryan was complaining that the roster was set too soon. He wanted more drama at the buzzer, and he got it. So,
yeah, I don't know what that was
with
about.
Garrett Mitchell out, it puts us back into kind of a last minute audible. And like we kind of talked about, the options we think are more obvious with Weimer or Haase, but the kind of last option is if they really value that extra outfielder, but they want Weimer to get the extra at bats, like Ryan Braun forever and Scoop. We're kind of preaching, and I think I even mentioned it last episode. Is it could do him some good just to get steady looks at the AAA level. Is maybe you bring in an Oliver Dunn to be the lefty option at third, and that allows Sal to be a full-time option in the outfield again to start the year. Dunn hit well in spring training and has looked pretty good in the minors as well. I did that little like prospect profile for him, and honestly, he has a good bat. He plays second and third, and I think he'd be a decent fit as well if we want kind of that lefty option at third, if that's what we opt for. So I think he probably could be thrown into the mix as like a wild card beside the obvious 2 options of who might take that spot. But even if he's on the roster, you won't be seeing the lefty lineup much, I think, on opening day against perennial Brewers opponent, Jose Quintana. So that's who we have game 1 against the Mets. And then obviously we know they're without their ace in Senga. But the Crew, Freddie was announced as opening day starter. And then I think the second, or did they announce Ray was definitely going to go in the third or
Yeah, it
second?
sounds
And
like
then
yeah.
I think Hall is supposed to be kind of the at least bulk inning guy in that middle game probably. But I know, Scoop, you said there were rumors of maybe someone opening before Hall, which you like doing, and I think we'll do a lot of this year with the length that our main pitchers or starters, if you want to call them that, look to give. If it's only 4 innings, I'd look for a righty, maybe a Bryce Wilson to go 2 innings to start the game, or 2 innings to start the game and hand it off to Hall or something like that. So, I think we'll see Ray, who will eat innings, and Peralta and Hall, who have some nasty stuff in those first 3 games. And it's pretty exciting. And obviously, JD Martinez just got added to the Mets, but with missing camp and stuff, I don't think you figure to see him in that series. But we'll have to see. Either way, they're a decent team. We'll get David Stern's best try at his old team. So pretty excited for opening day for the Crew, and we'll have to see how the first weekend goes. And next time we talk, we'll maybe be super optimistic, or Kean will be ready to sell the farm already, and just maybe Kean, you could go join Craig down south. And I saw he's odds-on favorite for NL Manager of the Year, so maybe the books know, Shohei and the books know that the Cubs are on the up.
I'm gonna ignore your last part there, but the part that I will comment on is the JD Martinez part. If he does play, he's gonna hit like 3 home runs in that series.
Just shut your mouth.
Brewers luck. 2 off Hall, 1 off of your eBay. I'm calling it.
Hey, what's gotten into you today? Normally Cole is the negative Brewers one. He's the one who hates Ryan Braun. You tonight, you hate anyone who's had an injury for the Brewers, and you said JD Martinez have 3 home runs.
Which is pretty bold coming from a Ryan Braun fan, because he was known for a couple of injuries and some other missed time, if you're not aware.
The man had a dead nerve in his thumb. All right. He's crippled. We have ADA laws against what you just said. Jesus, have a heart.
Oh,
The
all
man
right.
has a family.
And with that, we are getting into our 2024 MLB predictions. So I think the best way to start is for us to go with our 5 non-NL Central division winners. Would one of you 2 gentlemen like to volunteer? Or I do have my Bernie's Chalet piggy bank. I could grab a coin and flip.
Doesn't matter.
Why don't you go first, Daddy?
All right.
Well, do we just want to do divisions one at a time, or do we want to rattle off?
Yeah,
all of
why
our
don't we do
picks?
one at a
I think we would
time?
do it. We say division and we all go through quick.
We can
And that
do
way we
one
can
at a
discuss
time,
it.
but we are a arguing group, so I didn't want every division to take 20 minutes, but we can go for it. I'll go
Most
ahead
of these
and
are
start.
slam dunks.
I'll say try to keep your explanation to 2 or 3 sentences. All right, for the non-NL Central. I'm gonna start with the AL West. I have the Astros. My couple sentences are gonna be Rangers injured pitchers and Rangers World Series hangover.
Yep. I also have the Stros. My sentence will be the Mariners staff is, I think, only going to be better from last year and might be pushing, but I don't have to waste sentences on the stuff you said, Scoop.
I had Rangers, and I have no sentences.
Good. I'm sure the listeners will love that. AL Central Twins. This is just the least of the least worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They lost some pieces, but like you said, on paper, you just don't really know how it's not them. The Tigers are making a push. They were second last year. They're young. They're fun. They have some rookies, but you got to go Twins.
Well, if you got to go Twins, I went Guardians.
I don't hate it.
Oh, these are slam dunks, says Kean.
They are. The Guardians have Stephen Vogt at
All right.
manager. And
Parlay 'em, put your house on it.
the best player in the division with our boy Jose Ramirez. So
I do love
Royce Lewis is the best third baseman in the division.
I do love Joe Ram. AL East, I'm gonna say Orioles, and I'll use my sentences by saying I could totally see the Orioles. Although they're the favorites, I could totally see the Orioles not finishing the job and having a little bit of regression from last year, especially without Felix Bautista. So, but
Yeah.
I know Cole already picked the Orioles.
I got the Orioles, but my sentence would be Garrett Cole out for the Yankees, and he's their only clear stud. Obviously, Stroman will be fine, and I think I like the Jays, and I was really high on them last year, but on paper they didn't really get better, and they weren't all that last year, so it's kind of hard to say them. So
I've got the Yankees. Make or break year for Aaron Boone. I think if they don't start out hot, I think he's gone midway through. So it'll depend on how hot they get out the bank there. But I think this is the first time in a long time we've looked at them and been like, oh yeah, they shouldn't compete, and I think this will be the one time they will. And I really
think
like
they
Marcus
should.
Stroman, so
Their lineup is insane. It's just they lost their Cy Young
Yeah.
winner and their pitching. They have a lot of guys that need to, I guess, show they still have it on their staff, other than Stroman, who's obviously solid. But
All right. NL West, I have the Dodgers. Don't
no
need to say anything.
sentences.
No sentences. Just I got the Dodgers. I'm sure you both
Yeah,
do as well.
I had to take the Dodgers, but I do want to say that's a really talented division. I think the Giants might have had the best offseason. Now that we're doing this, obviously looking back at it all, and the
Mhm.
Padres added some pieces that'll be helpful with the Cease trade and stuff like that, and even obviously the D-backs we saw in person at the playoff game what the D-backs are capable of. So all that to say, still Dodgers.
I've got the Giants in fourth place, and I've got the Dodgers in first. Just to piggy off the whole Giants thing, I think they still suck. But
Still.
they're better than the Rockies.
Yep. For the NL East, I have the Braves, but I will say that one of these years the Phillies are going to take it from them, and it could be this year, but my gut says Braves still.
I'll say the Braves too, but I think the Phillies might just not care about winning the division. We saw last year how much winning the division helped the team get to the
Yep.
World Series. So, I agree.
I've got the Braves.
All right. So getting into the NL Central breakdown, I think we can all agree that the Pirates are not the worst team in the league, but they're probably going to finish at the best fourth in the division, probably fifth. You don't think? Yeah. Okay. You shake.
Well, when you said it sounded like you were going from like they're 100% going to be dead last. I have them finishing
No.
fourth.
Yeah, I was saying that I feel like there's no way they finish higher than third, and it's likely fourth or fifth is my point. So I'm gonna say that none of us even have them in contention. It's a 4-team race.
As much as I don't have them as my favorite. They could put. I just think. I mean, if you think about them compared to the Brewers, they have an ace and they have questionable depth arms, and their offense on paper by projections, whatever, but it's almost equal to what we're expected to do. You got to think they get Cruz back. They have some of their youth, I guess a little more MLB ready. Yeah, they're worse than everyone, but even if you look at like Fangraphs projections, which who cares? But the Cardinals are in first and projected wins at 83, and the Pirates are in last at 77. So if the division's decided by 6 games,
Yeah.
everyone's in it. But I agree.
Yeah,
And-
I think this is their best team since they made the playoffs. But not to say I think they're better than all of us, but I completely agree. I was looking at the Fangraphs, and I was like, damn, this is probably the best the bottom teams have ever been, but probably one of the worst seasons the top teams are
Yep.
going to have in a while. So it's just kind of like it just crunched it together. The bad teams aren't as bad, and the good teams aren't as good.
And they have the best player in the division according to MLB The Show, in David Bednar. So just remember that the highest.
Hey, he's better than Devin Williams for the first 3
He's
months.
better than Nolan
That's
Arenado.
for sure.
He's better than Paul Goldschmidt. Yeah, so for me, it's a 4-team race. And I don't know how you guys want to do this, but I guess I'll just say kind of
Start from the bottom and go up.
Well, yeah, okay. I'll say that the Pirates have finished fifth for me. Fourth for me, I think it's gonna be the Reds. I'm tempted to say the Cardinals fourth, but I think that they were better than they were last year. Or they're going to be better than they were last year. They should have been better last year, but they still don't do enough for me to win the division. So I'm going to say the Reds are going to be fourth. I think it's all the top 4 are going to be close, but that's just my prediction. I'm going to say the Cardinals are going to finish third, and the Brewers are going to finish second, and I think the Cubs win the division. I'm sorry, but that's what I'm thinking. I think that getting Bellinger back was huge. Just the fact whether council matters or not, the excitement in Chicago is real. That's real for I think as much as any sport. It's baseball, and I mean Steele looks good. Imanaga should be good. I think Hendricks will still be a really solid number 3. I think anyone can of those top 4 can really win the division, but I think the Cubs do it. I think that the Cardinals pitching staff is just not. It's just guys who are past their prime. Sonny Gray starting the year on the IL with the hamstring. He was really going to be, I think, the anchor of that rotation. And I think the Reds just still have a lot to prove. They have a lot. They have a lot of good young players, but Ellie De La Cruz has to prove himself. Spencer Steer and Matt McClain are pretty good, but Encarnacio Strand came up and was cold. A lot of their pitching staff is still young as well. They lost a vet and Joey Votto. So I think that the Reds are still maybe 1, maybe 2 years away. So I guess for me, it's just the Brewers I think are better than the Cardinals. And I think that the Cubs steal the division this year because also why the fuck not? Because it just is going to hurt us. So kind of what I'm getting ready for. But that's how I see the NL Central playing out.
Cole, you want me to go?
Sure.
So I've got the Cardinals as bottom feeders. I think that their pitching is literally atrocious. It rivals ours, but ours will get better as the season goes on, and theirs will continue to get worse. And then obviously, even if they're, I think they would rather kind of blow it up if they're terrible I shouldn't say terrible. If they're like 6 games under 500 in July, I think they'd blow it up. They have a ton of 1-year deals, ton of expiring deals. So I think that would be their best course of action. And it wouldn't be blowing it up, it'd be retooling. Then I have the Pirates. I think, as I said earlier, this is one of the best Pirates rosters we've seen in a while. And that's saying a lot because they're still going to finish 4th. Then I have the Cubs. But really, I think it's a toss-up between, 3 teams. Cubs, I don't believe in Bellinger. I don't believe in Amanaga or whatever the hell his name is. Cool what they did. Cool that they spent some money. They spent more money than we did, not counting Chourio, but, on guys that weren't already on the roster. And then they obviously stole our manager. So fuck them. And then I have the Brewers. I have them finishing 87 and 75. I think that if they're in it in July, so I have them as my 3rd wild card team as well. But I think if they're in it, they'll make a splash. It feels like 2018 all over again. We have a team that is supposed to be really good on offense. You have your established stars. And then your pitching stash is just a hodgepodge of old dudes and young guys. I mean, Jolies Chacin was our best starter in 2018. And who knows? Maybe that could be Joe Ross. Who knows? Not saying it's picture perfect, but it just feels like the vibes are there. I think will be a lot of fun to watch, whatever happens. And then I have the Reds. I actually put $10 on them on FanDuel when I was in Chicago last weekend, 2 weekends ago. So I think they'll reach 90 wins on the dot, and they'll be the division winners. I liked what you said about them being 1 or 2 years away, but that you could say the same thing about the Brewers. They have as many freshmen as we did last year, and honestly, their freshmen performed better than ours did.
Yeah,
And they signed arms in the bullpen. They have more freshman starters. DL Hall is going to be like Ashcraft last year. I just think they're going to be better than us. But I think the rest of the division is bad enough for us to win like in August and September because I think that they'll get rid of valuable pieces. So I think we'll make our run at the end of the year.
I think the difference between us this year and the Reds last year though is we have like who's their William Contreras or Christian Yelich or I don't know. I feel like we have more solid MLB talent than they did last year. But that's not to say that can't change this year. But if you're saying we are the Reds of last year, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. You also mentioned them losing Joey Votto, and the dude was terrible
well,
last year.
Yeah, they
Not-
added. I'll save it for my preview, I guess.
Well, I'm sure Cole's done more research than I did, but they've added like I want to say 4 or 5 veterans to their
they added
rotation. in their lineup.
Candelario. Yeah, and
Yeah.
their rotation, they also added pieces. They added Frankie Montas coming off injury, but he's
Yeah.
And they
got
added
upside. They added Nick Martinez from the Padres, who was a solid starter. They get Abbott back, who kind of guys caught on to him at the end of last year, but if he's your 5, he's fine. Ashcraft kind of was down last year, but people were high on him, and he has the potential. And the other starter not named is Hunter Green, who I think we all know he's a guy
nasty.
where he's like, yeah, kind of sky's the limit type guy. So honestly, for my prediction, I'm still kind of up in the air. But what Kian said is kind of how I was feeling. I'm the only thing is I'm the Pirates and Cards I could flip, but I mentioned how I also am kind of high on the Pirates lineup at least, and they're definitely not gonna. Well, they do have some pieces, I guess they'll shed, but those two will finish in the bottom, I think, and then it's gonna be kind of a 3-horse race, is my guess. And since Scoop said it, I don't want to be the bad guy, so Scoop can be the guy that says the Cubs will win it. But I could see any of these 3. The other thing too, I was gonna say with the Reds is Marte got suspended for 80 games, but he can still come back for when it matters. If
Not
he's
postseason
ready,
eligible though.
well, I guess he'll come back to get him there.
To get him there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go with you know what? Someone has to say it. I'll say the Brewers win the division, Reds get second, Cubs get third.
All right.
But I don't think we have 2 playoff teams in this division, like Ian said, with the competition we'll get from the West and the East.
If the
Why don't we
Reds
jump
have a-
right into the wild cards then?
Yeah,
'Cause
we
I,
can.
I already said my Brewers won.
The Reds, I think, if they had, there's definitely a clear path for them to win the division if a bunch of those second-year dudes all of a sudden take off and become all-stars. I can definitely see it. I love Candelario for them. I like Montas too. So I can definitely see it. So
And their bullpen's good. I mean,
yeah.
and I guess I don't know how long Nick Lodolo's out,
I
but
don't know. Alexis Diaz
looks like
is
it was
nasty.
recent. Yeah,
we can go
but I
straight,
don't know.
we can go straight into NL wildcards as long as we're
I
talking
was gonna
now.
say,
So go ahead.
sorry, I just forgot to say one thing about the Cardinals, and it
Mhm.
was while we were shitting on the rotation. I feel like Miles Mikolas is like becoming kind of like I don't know, like one of the more hated guys in the league, at least by me. He says some stupid shit that I
Really?
always see. Like, did you see when he was talking about the Dodgers and he was like, this is the quote. He says, "We're not exactly a low payroll team, but you got the Dodgers playing checkbook baseball. We're going to be the hardest working group of Midwestern farmers we can be, and it'd be
Oh.
great to stick it to the Dodgers." Like, what? Do you look at your payroll every year? What are you
Yeah.
talking about? Also, he sucks.
Yeah,
Pitched
kind of.
200 innings last year.
Great.
We could
I-
use him, honestly.
Yeah, we could, but he still sucks.
My thing
He
with the
does blow,
Cardinals,
but he's their opening day starter. So what does that tell you?
They
Well,
blow. That's what it tells me.
that's what
Well,
I'm
it tells me
saying.
Sonny Gray's hurt is what it actually tells me, but
Well, and it's hard to ever count out a team that has Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, but yeah, that pitching staff is, unless they find the fountain of youth. Yeah, so we can go right into NL wildcard teams. I am gonna say that the Phillies are in, likely the first spot. These aren't ranked, but that's what I'm thinking. I think the Diamondbacks make it back. They added Eugenio Suarez. They added Eduardo Rodriguez. So I really
I
like
think he's
those
hurt
two.
right now. But I think he'll be
Eron?
healthy when it
Yeah.
matters. Yeah.
But I like that a lot. I think Brendan Pfaadt takes a big step forward after all of his playoff experience. That rotation could look really nice. So I like the Diamondbacks making it back in. I think they win a lot of games this year. They're just obviously going to be behind the Dodgers, in my opinion. And then I do think that the Brewers sneak in with that last wild card spot, or one of the last wild card spots. I don't know. We'll see. I did predict this before I heard the Garrett Mitchell news. Not that I think that he's gonna change the whole course, but it does. It changes things. It changes depth for sure. That tells me. Ian, you're shaking your head, but you're very against Joey Weimer being ready. What if that means that Joey Weimer comes right back up? I don't know. I don't think that Garrett Mitchell is going to make or break this team necessarily, but I more think that the logistics of things. It's just one extra body. Someone else will get hurt, and then before you know it, Joey Weimer's facing righties and lefties every day. So I don't know.
I don't know. I was one of the guys that I'm one of the very few people that is not high on Garrett Mitchell, even after he had
I'm
a hot
not
spring.
extremely
So, I
high
mean,
on him,
I
but
don't think there's that much of a difference between the
But
two.
don't you think that there's a good chance the Brewers either make or miss the wild card by like 1 or 2 games?
I really don't think if
You
you
don't.
plugged in, the only difference is that Garrett Mitchell's strength is against right-handed pitchers and Joey Weimer's strength is against lefties. That's the only difference I see between the two. They both have high
Well,
strikeout rates. The only one hits for power, one hits for contact. I mean, they're basically the same guy. They both play good defense. And I just
I think
I don't
that.
think it's a huge loss.
Well, I don't think it's just the Garrett Mitchell thing, but the other thing we just found out is that, and I was going to hit on it at the end, but Brandon Woodruff is no longer trying to come back at the end of 2024. So I just think that between losing Mitchell and then Williams being out 2 months and then Woodruff not even making 5 or 6 starts for us, or even 3 or 4, or maybe being ready for the playoffs, I think all those things combined might change my mind. But at the time of predicting it, I thought that the Brewers are going to be in. Either way, I think they're going to be in the race. So we'll see. But I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm super high on Garrett Mitchell, but it would be nice to kind of know. I don't think that Mitchell or Weimer or even Frelick for that matter are at their like have maxed out their potential just yet. I'm not saying they're all going to be all-stars someday, but I will say that I think that they're still very raw, and I would give it at least this full season before I made a real decision on if I think they're going to be a serviceable major leaguer for a long time. So I don't know.
I agree. I completely agree, but I don't think his loss is as big as, the Garrett Mitchell lovers are making it out to be. Like this early in the season, if, he was batting 278 and had like a 740 OPS and he went down, I'd be like, "Oh shit." But I don't think that's the guy he would be
You
playing
know,
every day anyways.
Mitchell
I
does
don't know.
have. Give me your wild card teams. I'm gonna look at
We
Mitchell's
have the
stats
same
again.
we have the same exact teams. I
Yeah.
just think the D-backs would be the first team
Yeah.
and
No.
then the Phillies and then the Brewers
Yeah.
instead of
I
the
guess
Phillies
either way.
D-backs.
But I think the Brewers sneak in for the last spot. Garrett Mitchell in his short MLB career. What did you say the benchmark? What did you say if it'd be different if he had a what OPS?
Okay, he's played 2 small stints before pitchers had a chance to adjust
But
to him, and then if he could adjust
that's
back,
my
and he
point
still
though.
had a 36% strikeout rate. That
Right.
is not
True.
sustainable.
Fine.
It's not.
But
So
he's
it
still
doesn't
all I'm
matter.
saying is that he's got 47 games and he's got a 795 OPS and a 120 OPS plus in 47 major league games. That's his whole career.
Yeah,
So
but he also
I'm not
struck
saying
out at a
that
40% clip in that little span
sure.
too. So I
No,
think that'll even
I
itself out,
agree.
is all I'm saying.
I agree. I agree. I'm not saying again, I'm not saying Garrett Mitchell's going to be an all-star this year if he's healthy. All I'm saying is that when we're talking about the difference between the Brewers making or missing the playoffs is if I'm saying they're in the last wild card spot, they're probably making the playoffs by a singular game. And I think that the difference between Garrett Mitchell and Joey Weimer could be one game. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see that, but that's just me. I mean, agree to disagree. I can see where you're getting that, but I wasn't high on. I think Blake Perkins is a better player right now than Garrett Mitchell is. You can
That's
only get better
sure.
if
I
you
guess that's fine.
play. And
I
Garrett
would
Mitchell has not played. He just hasn't. So I don't know when that 40% clip would go down if he's just not playing. So I would almost feel better if this allows him to get a rehab stint in AAA and then he comes up.
so
Like
would
I
you
almost enjoy that more.
so do you think it's worse to have a 795 OPS and a high strikeout rate than it is to have a hold on, let me see what Joey Weimer has.
I think
No,
he's just saying
no
it.
Joey Weimer hate, but if you're gonna make that comparison, a 645 OPS and a 76
Yeah, but how
OPS
many
plus.
at bats do both of them have?
Does it
Yeah,
matter?
I was gonna say if you give
And were
Garrett
they
Mitchell
only
the at
and they're
bats Weimer had,
And I
Weimer
think
that
has
he's-
Weimer
and I
has
think they were playing-
410 plate appearances, and Mitchell has
like
140.
140.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I don't know what the matchups were, but Weimer was playing every day, and I don't know if Mitchell was getting favorable matchups at
That's still
all.
150 points. I'm just saying. Whatever. I feel like by the time we see Garrett Mitchell get to those numbers, there's a good chance he's higher than that. Either way, all I'm
I
saying
hope I'm
is
wrong.
Mitchell.
I just
Mitch.
that's
I'm
what I
not.
think.
I don't really have an opinion on who's going to be better. I'm just saying it's one less. I see all these freshmen and young outfielders or young players in general as opportunities to be serviceable, good, everyday MLB players. And when you lose one for a third of the season, possibly, I see that as a bad thing towards the season because it's one less chance. It's one less like lottery ticket. If like bad example, but that's I guess my point is you just lose one more and it just hurts the depth a little bit more. So you can't play the hot hand if one of the hands is hurt. So that's my thought process.
Literally, one of the hands.
Yeah, there you go, literally.
This guy's
So
hilarious. He's
that's
here all
my-
week.
That's my thought process, and I don't think that we need to force Joey Weimer to come right back up. You just convinced me that he should be in AAA. You did convince me. I think he should spend at least a few weeks down there. So
Just because Garrett Mitchell's hurt doesn't mean that won't be the case.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm also not saying I'm crying for Joey Weimer to take those at bats. I mean, I just don't think that you lose him and you lose out on a playoff spot. I think there's so many things that happen in a season that you could go back and be like, oh, there's a game we missed. Or, Devin Williams would be such a better example to use for not making the playoffs than I believe Garrett Mitchell being hurt. I don't think he makes that. There's so many different variables in a season that I don't think he's the reason we miss out by a game. Is my point.
But I'll say it to Scoop's side, it definitely doesn't help because he was
No, it doesn't.
poised
I
to make
agree.
the roster, and now he's not going to be. So we're worse than we were a day ago, and we're worse than we were 2 weeks ago, and we still thought we had Devin Williams, and we worse than we were 3 weeks ago, and we didn't know Wade Miley was hurt. So yeah, we
So
just
it's going to
don't
feel that much better when we win 114 games.
Yeah.
Christian Yelich hits 68 home runs.
Cole,
heard
who
it
are
here
your
first.
NL wildcard picks?
Wait, let me clip that. I got Kian on record saying Yelly's
Yeah.
going for 68. I have the
6.8.
Phillies, 6.8 homers. I got the Phillies, the Giants, Kian, and with my last spot, I'm literally gonna pick by looking. I have it between two. I have them written down. I'm gonna go with the Padres just because I like their first three in the rotation, and I like some of their youth. I think their top three in the rotation is as good as anyone in the NL. Honestly, I think Musgrove is underrated. Darvish wasn't great last year, but he had a couple, I think, issues he was working off of, but he's still nasty. And then Cease. Those three are top dogs, and they still have premier players. They still have some stuff to work through and probably some strings on gloves to retie, but they fix a couple things. They might work their way into the postseason.
I could see it. I could see the Padres and the Giants, to be honest. I mean, the Giants signed a ton of guys. They would just have to play to who they think they are. And that's not always the case with 1 year, prove it deals with options. That's not always how it works. That's why I didn't pick them. I think they'll be good. I think their division's just too good and they'll beat up on each other. It's who's going to beat up on the other teams.
Yeah, but
I think the D-backs are.
Beating up in the division's a little lessened in the modern day of scheduling.
True.
But yeah, I don't disagree.
I don't know. I think there's 4 teams that are really good in the NL West, and then there's 2 really good teams in the East, and then there's 3 mediocre teams in the Central. So I could see any number of those teams. Yeah, or 4 or 5, honestly.
Yeah.
All right, we just lost one brave Kian to bad Wi-Fi, so we're gonna keep going. He's gonna send me his picks right now, but getting into it. So we got our playoff picture set. So I said that we should pick Brewers All-Stars. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that Freddie Peralta is an All-Star. William Contreras is an All-Star. I don't think either of those two are too earth-shattering. They've both been All-Stars before. But I'm going to say that Christian Yelich gets back in the All-Star game this year. He was pretty close last year. So if he's just a hair better come July, I think that he gets back in. So those are my 3 Brewers All-Stars.
Yeah, he was close last year, and I was hoping he'd get it, but the outfield's just so hard. So I have the same first two actually. The catcher position in the NL is kind of stacked, but Contreras, I think he can keep rolling and he's deserving. I have 3 Brewers All-Stars too. My third is Willy Adames. He's been hot and he has we all saw what he's capable of when he first came to the Crew. He's in that contract kind of scenario. He is a team leader. I think just a lot of things are poised for him to have a big year. So I got Willie. Whether it's his curtain call and he leaves us halfway through the year after the All-Star campaign or what, he's my third.
I actually had Willie instead of Yelich at first, and then I remembered that Mookie Betts is probably going to be the starting NL shortstop. So then I
Sorry.
was like, well, that leaves one spot for Dansby and Lindor, and so I don't know. That's why I opted against it, but I do have a good feeling about Adames. So never been an All-Star before. Kean had the same 3 as me, so Freddie, Yelich, and Contreras, but then he also had Abner Uribe. So
Yeah, I
that'd
like
be,
that.
yeah,
But
I
we'll
like
have to
that.
see.
Yeah, we'll
Go
see.
riskier.
I think if Freddie Peralta is not an All-Star, we might be sellers at the deadline because we really need a big year out of him at the top of that rotation. So,
Yep.
All right, we can do MVPs. I am gonna go with Aaron Judge in the AL. I think if he plays a fully healthy year, there's really no one like him, especially with Ohtani out of the AL. So I think he's almost a lock for 45 plus home runs and 110 or 115 RBI. So I like Aaron Judge in the AL. And then it looks like Kean had Julio Rodriguez. That would be a big bounce back. So and then
You
in the
say
end,
that, but I think Julio finished like 4th or 5th in MVP
did
voting
he?
last year in the AL. Yeah, he
I just remember.
ended strong.
Yeah,
Yeah, he started real slow,
yeah.
but he always kind of, well, he only has 2 years of sample size, but
Who'd you have in the AL?
I have Julio Rodriguez.
Mm,
My thing is
okay.
I really struggle to pick between teammates, and the Yankees are gonna have a very clear 2 front runners in
Yeah.
Soto and Judge. And between those two, you probably take Judge because you figure he's probably collecting a ton of RBIs with Soto walking to first base, doing his shuffle. But yeah, that's where I struggled. So I instead went with a guy who's can really provide on both ends of both sides of the game, I guess, defense and offense. And he doesn't have, yeah, he finished MVP 4 last year, Rodriguez. So, and that was in, like you said, a down year. So if
Yeah.
he can put it
Yeah.
together, it's definitely a steeper climb, but I don't know. I also really like him. So
It's a good
picking
pick.
a little with the heart.
You're not gonna like my NL pick either then if you don't like the teams with multiple options because
No, I went into it on the NL. You kind of have to, I
I'm
feel
gonna
like.
go with Mookie Betts as I just mentioned, just because I think that he is unless he absolutely sucks at shortstop, which I doubt it. I don't think that man's ever sucked at anything in sports. Um, if he comes in and plays a serviceable shortstop and has the offensive season that he's had in the last couple of years or his whole career, basically, I think it would be, and assuming the Dodgers win 100 games, with Ohtani not pitching this year, I think it's pretty tough. And I think if he doesn't, it might be Freddie Freeman. Ian had Acuna back to back. So you
I
had Mookie.
have Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't play shortstop throughout the year, no matter
Yeah.
where he plays, it's a harder defensive position than DH or first base. So he gets the plus there. And yeah, I think he'll have crazy counting stats if he stays healthy with that
Yep.
lineup.
All right. And then going to the Cy Young, I actually had, we've talked about their rotation already, and we've talked about them having an MVP. So I have Luis Castillo of the Seattle Mariners winning the AL MVP. He has always had the potential, and I don't know. I just feel like eventually one of these years he's gonna put it all together. He's always a fun guy that I like to watch. And then it looks like Kean had for AL Cy Young Pablo Lopez. Interesting. I don't hate it, but I feel like that's not an obvious one. Who'd you have, Colt?
I have Pablo Lopez. Kian and I are on the same wavelength for the
That's all
first
right.
time ever, and he's not on the call.
Yeah.
Maybe I accidentally sent my list for him. Lopez just one, he's gonna have to be the guy for the Twins because they lost Sonny Gray. And he strikes out guys at a really fun clip. I think that pairs well with not giving up runs. I think the one thing, a lot of guys, I don't know, they kind of not specialize, but they don't always do both, where they're really fun to watch and they avoid giving up runs. And honestly, I really like Luis Castillo and did last year too, but that rotation's so crazy. I don't know how you pick between him, between Kirby, between Gilbert, even like the back end guys, Wu and Miller. Like they're not gonna win the Cy Young, but they'd be our number 2 starter in a heartbeat. So
Yep.
that is what worries me with their team, is it's just how does a guy stand out above the rest of the league when he probably can barely stand out amongst his teammates? But no, Castillo's awesome, and I'm happy he's not in our division.
Yeah. And then it looks like Kean and I had the same pick in the NL, and I feel like you might. Tyler Glass now. So obviously this is a guy who has never been able to stay healthy, but if he puts this is like Dodgers voodoo for me. I feel like he's gonna just finally stay healthy for once. But this is a guy that if he stays healthy for a full year, I think that he's gonna have a very good shot at winning a Cy Young. He's just nasty, and he's always really good. He just hasn't put together a full season yet. So
Yeah, I think the Dodgers' depth might help him stay healthy too. But I went with Spencer Strider. I think he's probably the favorite, and I don't know. Again, I like seeing guys that kind of can do both things, and I obviously Glass now can K guys up, but
yeah,
Strider is just so fun to watch, and he's obviously on one of the 2 premier teams in the NL. So that's my pick. But yeah, I just think innings wise, and obviously we saw last year. It's not always that important to throw the innings, I guess, with the NL Cy Young winner, but Glasnow doesn't really. And honestly, I didn't want to say it just because it's boring, but I think Snell made an awesome choice of where to play as well for kind of a run it back type scenario with being in San Francisco. I think he has a chance. I don't know what the odds look like, but
yeah.
and I don't know if there's maybe some um, I guess hesitation with a back to back. I don't know. It's always harder to win back to back, I feel like, in sports, but
I feel like he had a lot go right for him last year. That's my only thing is that sometimes those walks can turn into more runs. So that would be my only hesitation. But I don't hate it. He proved he can get out of jams. He proves he can strike dudes out. So
yep.
all right, moving to rookie of the year. So Keane had Yoshinobu Yamamoto. We already saw him have one really bad start. Obviously, we're not going to buy too much into just that alone. But I don't want to sound like the homer here, but I really think I'm going to pick Jackson Chourio. And I'm going to say that I wasn't going to pick this as of a couple weeks ago, but I just saw well, this was today, but I've been following spring training, so I made this pick yesterday, the day before. But today, Mike Vasallo tweeted that Jackson Chourio is 19 for 58, so a 328 average in 17 games this spring. And he leads the team in runs and hits. Obviously, he's played a ton, but he's hitting 328 through 17 spring training games. My only concern with him was if my only concern with him winning Rookie of the Year was if he can do it from the jump. Obviously, I'm not going to be worried if he starts out cold for the first 2 months, but just the fact that he's hot right now in spring training makes me feel like there's probably be a little bit of an adjustment period, but hopefully it's not more than maybe a month, and you can win the Rookie of the Year and with 3 or 4 really good months. So I am going to go with Churio. It did help a little bit to see Yamamoto get kind of shit on in that first game to make me think that he needs to adjust as well. But Keane's got him, and I got Churio. Who did you have?
I have Churio. It helps to be a Brewers podcast.
Yeah.
A little biased, but I honestly, and the other thing too is the Mitchell injury is definitely going to help him not, he'll get his playing time. So whether it's good or not, he's going to get enough of a sample size early to get his feet wet and get comfortable. I think the other thing too is I mean, we'll have Joey Ortiz will get a lot of at bats, and DL Hall is going to be a contributor. So I'd even say keep an eye on DL Hall if he's truly like our number 2 or 3 starter all year. He's at least going to be in the conversation where he's not really now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and then this is gonna be boring since I picked Churio, but in the AL, I do have Jackson Holiday. I think that he is super close to getting called up. I think he's one IL stint from one of those infielders away. So I think you put it all together. Normally with a kid that young, I'd be worried as well, like I said with Churio. But I don't know, something about being a second generation major leaguer makes me feel like he's probably more ready for it than any other guy. So I do have Jackson Holiday. Kian has Evan Carter. Is he so? I mean, he must
He's
have.
still, yeah, he's still a rookie.
Okay, I'm
He's like
curious.
second in AL odds, I think.
Okay, got you. I'm curious to see now how many plate appearances he had. 23 games, 75 plate appearances last year. So obviously
Because
plus
that doesn't
the
count the playoffs, yeah.
right plus playoffs. But yeah, he 1058 OPS over 23 games as a 20-year-old last year. So
So I'm gonna pick someone from my favorite college baseball team, the Florida Gators.
oh
Just kidding. It's my friend Sam Bjorklund. It's his
yeah.
favorite college baseball team. I have Wyatt Langford.
Okay.
A 2023 pick in the MLB draft. Instantly had success, obviously, in his very short sample size. It's kind of funny. He last year with the Rangers, he played rookie ball and then went to high A, double A, and triple A all within that year. And across the 4 levels, he hit 360, and his highest average was in double A. His OPS across the 4 levels was 1.157. And he's already locked in a spot on the roster. And I mean, he figures to obviously get reps around. I don't know. I think he plays. I don't know if I think he predominantly will be a left fielder for them, is my guess, but I know they kind of have some outfielders. So whether it's DHing, which I've heard, or playing the outfield, um, yeah, he's a stud, and he locked in his. If he's on the opening day roster, I'm not really worried about him, manipulating any sort of time or anything like that. So if he gets the shot, I think he's ready. And I don't know, Evan Carter's just not as fun because he was in the league last year.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I think I saw David Schneider. You remember the dude who like went off on the Blue Jays last year?
Yeah, David Schneider. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's still like a
You got called up pretty late.
yeah, I guess.
All right, so we have our CS and World Series picks, but before that, I just saw Baseball Reference put out their projections, and pretty much every projection has the Brewers around like 78-ish wins. Baseball Reference has the NL Central projections as they do it by 10th of a win. So Brewers 91.6 and 70.4. So they have the Brewers projected, if you round it, at 92 wins, with the
Wow.
Cubs at 89, the Reds at 80, Pirates at 72, and the Cardinals at 70. So that I think that's high. I think the 78s that we've seen are low, but I think the 92 is high, but it's cool to see. And then World Series odds have the Brewers 6th behind the Dodgers, Orioles, Braves, Phillies, and Mariners. I
No way.
don't think that we have better odds than the
Are you sure?
Rangers. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Their tweet, unless someone has at baseball_ref is fake. So I don't think we have better odds than the Rangers or the Astros, but I appreciate the optimism, Baseball Reference. So, but yes, getting into the CS and the World Series, I have the Astros over the Yankees again. I think that the Rangers don't quite get it done 2 years in a row. It's hard to make it to the World Series as a wild card 2 years in a row. And I think that the Astros get it done with that bullpen. I think that I don't know if it's people like to hate on the Astros or because they're the Astros or what, but I think people think that their rotation is worse than it actually is right now. I hear a lot of people talking about the rotation not being as good as it has been in years past. I don't really understand why. You add one of the best relievers in baseball, and Josh Hader to a bullpen that already has Ryan Presley, who's a generational postseason closer. So I think the Astros beat the Yankees. It looks like Keen has the Astros over the Orioles. And then in the NL, I had the Dodgers over the Phillies. And Keen has the Dodgers over the Braves. So Keen and I both have Astros Dodgers in the World Series. Cole, who'd you have in the CS round?
I have the Astros beating the Mariners, which I know is risky, but I don't know. It's not really fun to go chalk, even though
Yep.
the March Madness is. So
Yeah.
I figured I'd get creative. And then I have this one's a little more, I guess, chalk, but I have Phillies Braves in the CS, and I have the Phillies coming out of the NL. I think their top end pitching is enough, and they do have enough depth and arms. Last year, they had a lot of their back end, like Ranger Suarez. Oh, is he still on the team, Ranger Suarez? But yeah, obviously their top end arms are awesome. I think Nola will do better than he did last year.
Yeah.
And their lineup is obviously they got guys. So, yeah. And then World Series, I don't know. It's just so hard to pick this stuff. But, did you say who you have one in the World Series, or you
No,
said CS?
I have Astros and Keen has Dodgers, so we're split there on that same World Series matchup. But I think the Astros get it done again. I think Josh Hader gets his first ring, and I think that it's just too obvious right now to pick the Dodgers. So I just feel like something's got to happen silly. So I got the
Mhm.
Astros. Keen's got the Dodgers.
Um, I will take the Phillies
Wow.
just to keep it interesting.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah, I mean that'd be cool to see for sure. But
Yeah, I mean the series would be insane.
oh
And
yeah.
I don't know. When I was younger, or like when Bryce Harper first was coming up, it was kind of annoying, I feel like, but I definitely like him now and
Oh
and
yeah.
respect what he's done. Obviously, I don't know why I say obviously. But that team's just got some interesting pieces with like I don't know. I don't know if memeable is the word, but like Castellanos is kind of like
Yeah.
just more iconic than he should be.
Yeah.
Schwarber just destroys the Brewers, and I despise him because of it, but he's good at what he does, and they just have a lot of studs around that team, and I think they're just super fun. So,
I saw Kyle Schwarber hit about a 587-foot home run in person when he was on the Nationals. I was at a Brewers Road game in DC, and he unloaded on a baseball. It was one of the farthest balls I've ever seen hit in person. But
bet you didn't pitch, right?
yeah, no, that wasn't me. No, some idiot. I think it was Freddie actually. But anyways, went a little longer than we had initially planned, so I'm gonna scratch off a couple of my final thoughts. But my one final thought is, and I couldn't confirm if these are going to be the on-field ones or not, but I saw in the team store the Mets black jerseys, and they
Yeah.
took the white trim off of the lettering, and they look brutal. They ruined. Fanatics ruined. If this is the on-field jersey, I don't know if it was just the fan shop one, but if it is the on-field jersey, Fanatics, you, along with all the other things you did, you ruined one of the best jerseys in baseball, in my opinion. So go fuck yourself, Fanatics. Any final thoughts?
No, I saw that too. I'm just curious to see what the jerseys really look like. I know you have a lot of merch where I don't have like as much merch, I feel like, but
Mm.
you still it's just like kind of the nostalgic piece to have, I guess, quality uniforms and stuff,
Well,
like
even less so what we're buying. It's
yeah, what you're seeing.
yeah, it might sound like it might seem stupid, like who cares, like how cheap the uniforms look, but I think it matters. I don't know. It's gonna take me a long time to get over the fact that the Brewers used to have that cool thick trim on the sleeves of their new cream uniforms, and now it's this little pencil line that you can barely see. So I don't know. It just looks cheap. Hopefully they come to their senses next year and they can make them these lightweight, breathable jerseys, but they can also make the letters look like MLB letters like the Royals apparently fought for and
Yeah.
fix the trim. So it is what it is. But yeah, that's all I got. We are 3 days from opening day, unless we see some rain. It looks like um not so great weather in the forecast in New York. We experienced that in September when we went to see the Brewers in New York play the Yankees. So We'll see if it's opening day on Thursday or Friday, but either way, there are 3 or 4 days till opening day, and we're excited. Brewers are looking good despite some of the bad injury news. So, thank you for listening. Make sure to follow us at Brew Crew Scoop on Twitter or X, and go Brewers. We'll talk to you once the season starts.
Go Brewers.